Now it's time to move on to our next session. The topic is Immersive Marketing Campaigns 2.0 Kids Content. In conversation with Somini Sridhara Paul, Senior Vice President, Hangama Digital Media Entertainment, joined by Azmat Jagmag, Head Marketing and Corporate Communications, Discovery Communications India, Sonali Bhattacharya, Head of Marketing, Kids TV Network Viacom 18, Pancham Lilane, CMO, Runwal Group, and R Retail Ventures Private Limited, Mayank Shah, Senior Category Head, Parley Products Private Limited, and Mansi Zaveri, Founder and CEO, KidsTopPress.com.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back quickly. And Siddharth, first of all, I want to thank you for thinking of me. And, I think this is an amazing venue, and it's great to have. First of all, I'm very excited that this is a panel with so many women and one man. So, this time, the ladies will let you go first. All right. So, Mayank, you are representing a brand, Parley, which I think kind of synonymizes with kids. How is the marketing approach for you when you think of kids? Most of us from a content perspective think of age groups and, age-appropriate content. How does a brand do it?
With most biscuits, except for certain categories like digestives or Marie and those kind of categories, your primary target audience is kids. So unless, you don't really understand them, unless you don't know what they want or what would resonate with them, it becomes really difficult to market to them. And when I say you don't understand, as in you have to think like them, you need to understand what they like, what they associate with. And then there is, I think, a laundry list of, do's and don'ts in terms of when you're dealing with kids, what you should not. And there are many myths which are associated with it. Like, probably if you're talking to kids, have absolutely a kiddie content kind of a thing. That's not what it is. Kids today are very different. And there has been a sea change in their behavior, in their attitude, in their opinions in last 2 years. Pandemic has brought about that. They're far more mature today. And as we call, today's generation, Gen Z or kids, they are digital natives, very different from digital immigrants. So I'm saying, it's very, very different marketing to them. And probably I can keep going on and on, but very different dealing with them, having a completely different approach, primarily meant for them. Respecting their views is something that makes a difference when it comes to marketing kids.
Sure. Sonali, you come from Viacom, which I think has done a great job, with kids content. Even Woot Kids, is literally to be able to create a separate OTT just for kids, How do you look at marketing? I mean, for you, from kids' perspective, do you believe there's a stop at a particular age, and beyond that you don't target kids, or how do you define kids?
So I'm going to take off from where Mayank left off, that it takes a lot of creativity and skill to reach out to a kid. They move in and out of age groups every year. So the person you were talking to at a particular time period of your brand has suddenly grown up and is seeking something very different in terms of engagement, entertainment, something to keep him occupied. So I would say the mantra in talking to a kid successfully is keeping him at the core of all that you do. Don't talk down to him. Don't patronize the child like you know what he wants, because he clearly knows what he wants and what he doesn't want. A child today is very capable of accepting and rejecting the content, campaigns, whatever works for him. And I would say a great shift that has occurred in the past 2 years, if I may look back at the pandemic as something that has brought about great cultural shifts, not just in societies, but even within a child. And he's started adulting very quickly. So a large amount of time spent by the child at home with his parents, unfortunately, he was exposed to a lot of grim reality, which he was protected from till 2020 March. And there's also a side to him which is an innocent child. So you had someone who's grown up overnight and someone who wants to escape. And you can see that in the kind of content being created these days. Whole lot of irreverent, tongue-in-cheek, very slice of life, naughty content, which
And a lot of these kids are creating the content themselves.
Yes, the user-generated content that has taken over, and marketing with purpose. Kids have turned out to be the best change agents and really taken charge of things. So they like to be spoken to meaningfully.
Fair enough. Mansi Zaveri, you're the founder and CEO of kidsstoppress.com. Can you tell us a little about it and, who are the kids you're catering to?
Right. So ours is actually a discovery platform for parents. So this is exactly the place where parents will discover what's the kind of product or service that they should use for their child, right from conception all the way till the child is about 16 years of age. So I am essentially speaking to the parent when it comes to content consumption, to product consumption, and through every single milestone in the parent's journey. And of course, we're talking of a digital reach of over 15 million. We're talking of being across platforms. We're not only speaking of written content today, but being platform agnostic and saying we're going to be on social, we're going to be on written content. We're going to serve as an audio medium and address the auditory skills of both the parent and the child. So I feel in many different ways, it's literally that one-stop discovery platform for parents, for everything to do with kids.
Superb, okay. Pancham, you run, we are here in our city, which is your mall. From a kid's point of view, do you look at kids or do you look at family? Do you look at parents? Who's your target?
First of all, good evening, Shamini. Good evening, everybody, and good evening, my panel fellow people. I think we are here on a topic post-COVID. I think the most important thing that grew was digital marketing. And I think the second important thing which people realized is the power a child has in the decision-making in a family. It is just growing, and it shocks us every time we sit down to do a marketing strategy. A kid of a particular age, the maturity that the kid has at, this generation versus the last two generation is so different. Yes, a kid up till 4 years of age is, they say, under parental supervision. 4 to 10 is a kid who is, has an individuality of its own, but of course is still under parental supervision. About 12 years, they're taking their decisions, not just taking their decision. I'm a mall, I have so many brands. So when we sit on a table, to think about marketing, it is for all different brands and all different verticals, from an F&B to entertainment to your shopping. And we've just seen that a kid goes online, does check the brand, checks the brand value, checks its viability to the product, checks its, they even check how much would that product be viable to them in the coming time. This is far, far superior than what any other kid of the generation, last generations would have thought. So coming to that, when we are thinking, we, especially in an annual marketing, there are months and there are campaigns that we simply target the kids, because those are the people who get in, the entire family is in. When I'm targeting a woman, she comes alone. When I'm targeting men shopping, they come alone. When I target a kid, he gets the whole family. So suddenly that TG has become the super most important for me in my marketing strategy. That's how it goes.
Absolutely.
Suddenly this is
Azmat,
sounding...
you head marketing.
Suddenly this is
Sorry.
I said, suddenly this is sounding like such a great proposition to be sitting here right now, because everybody is talking kids.
Right, fair enough. Azmat, you head marketing and corporate communications, for Discovery. When we look at Discovery, obviously even older kids are a huge target because, I think kids need to start looking at channels like this to be able to just get knowledge beyond the books and just be out there and understand what is out there, right? And these are the kids of today's generation that are ready to discover and look at new things. How much of a challenge is it for you to reach out to that target?
Right. Am I audible, guys? Yeah, now I am. Okay, yeah. So, no, again, like a very interesting question, a very difficult question, right? And Discovery, like, it has Discovery Kids, it has Discovery Channel, it has Animal Planets, it has Discovery Plus, right? So the entire gamut. And we kind of have the, we're lucky to kind of have access to them on so many different platforms, right? But if I were to, like, in all honest submission, just say that I don't think you can market to kids, like, maybe the completely wrong thing to say as a marketer, but, and, as a content marketer, this becomes like a truth of your life that, it's like if you have great content, you build on it, you create more out of it. But it's even more true for, a genre like kids, you have to seamlessly become a part of their lives, right? And to anybody who's tried marketing to kids, like, have you ever seen them skip a skippable ad? Like, I think they break it down within the frame of a second as well. Like, I've never seen anything move as fast as a kid trying to skip a skippable ad on a video that he or she is watching, right? So they're very immersed. Like, Shalini said it just so, Sonali said it so beautifully, the fact that, you have to understand them, you have to talk to them, you have to become a part of their lives. And, yes, there are standard templates of, digital makes and this, that, but inherently, like, just like a quick, something that I experienced as a moment of realization a couple of months back. How do you think kids are discovering music these days? Like, what do you think is their chief channel to discover music?
Reels.
Yeah, Reels.
Actually not. No, because bunch of kids, I was playing the role of the school aunt, taking them to, the beach on a weekend, and they started asking for songs from Imagine Dragons and, Dua Lipa and all of that. So I also said this, how do you know this music? Like, these are all 4 to 6 years old, okay? How do you know this music? Reels? So they said, no, games.
Yes,
So,
right.
it just suddenly dawned upon me, they're immersed playing games, and there is an entire industry that has kind of reached out to them. So they just discovered music. I don't think they went there with the intent of listening to Imagine Dragons, right?
No, but how do you, as Discovery, handle that? Because gaming is not a part of your offering.
Yes, it is. So that's what. So on Discovery Kids, like, I think Little Singam, the craze happened first. The game with 20 million downloads happened much later. And then did the two of them kind of aid or fuel each other's growth or fanship? Yes, it is. So, again, we do the works, right? There's a YouTube handle of Discovery Kids with, say, more than 4.5 million subscribers and some 3 billion views. It's my most consumed YouTube channel across networks. Like, that is the one that gets me maximum engagement. That is the one that gets me. And any self-promotion, like Discovery promotion ads that we put out on there, get the maximum response.
Right.
So that basically, I think it's simpler said than done, but I think you have to kind of just be a part of the universe through different means. Like, for me, it just blew me away that they're discovering music through games.
Right.
Like, that is not something that I would have thought about. So it became like a part of to make sure that I'm present there as well.
Fair enough. So, I mean, we've all heard and everyone's been talking about how COVID has impacted in so many ways. And, I think all of us are trying to find something positive that came out of COVID. And if we say from a technology point of view, the biggest positive part is the whole metaverse, NFT, that kind of, piece. And we've seen a lot of brands, Mayank, who are now trying to create positioning for themselves. Has partly already entered that space?
We're contemplating because, when you talk about certain brands that we have, Paleji being our flagship, we are very responsible in terms of whatever we do. And as we all know, I mean, while, we talk about metaverse and getting into it, it's an unregulated, medium. And you have to be very, very responsible when you're doing something. The very thing that you are present on it, really makes a huge difference in terms of whether you are buying into that philosophy or not. So we're contemplating that. But yes, that has brought about a huge change in terms of behaviors and kids.
Pancham, do you see, a physical outlet like a mall having any kind of role to play in the metaverse space?
So I'm going to take a step backward, Shamini, for your question and explain. You know, there was this time when offline marketing a few decades back was everything. Then we came to a phase where they say, oh, online marketing is going to be the future. There was this complete tug of war between the two. And then finally, I think everybody, every vertical and every business has realized that it's a hybrid version which works for any kind of industry. Your offline supports online, online supports offline. There is pros and cons to everything, and hence it matches to every industry. Same is with metaverse. I mean, I believe there are pros and cons, like Mayank said. You have to recognize them and very responsibly go into it. Even for a mall, which is like a complete offline. I mean, today we do marketing strategies which are done online but get us offline customers, you know. Best part is that offline customers, when they are there, we give them something which they go and use online and again come back. So it's not just one-way transmission, it's a complete circle of online to offline. We are also, I mean, right now only there are so many promotions and events that the mall is thinking of, and virtual reality is a very big part of it. So I do believe that going forward, of course, responsibly recognizing the pros and using it, especially where kids are concerned, because we have a moral responsibility towards them. But yes, it is going to be very, I won't say very large, but a very substantial part of marketing in the coming times, for sure.
Sure. Sonali, you have a linear as well as a non-linear medium. Which is the easier one to market to, and where do you see the most ROI?
I'm going to just jump right into the metaverse piece first. So we forayed into the metaverse as recently as last weekend with Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. And yes, with all the safety filters and tons of do's and don'ts, because as responsible kid brand custodians, we have to keep safety at the top of all that we do. And I'm going to lead this into the non-linear piece of what I will try and answer. I think it's going to be a huge part of all the engagement and interaction we do with kids in the non-broadcast, non-TV space in the future, especially with the kind of gamification, engagement that the metaverse actually allows you. And more, if you look at the way kids react to content and marketing campaigns, it's almost becoming agnostic of any screen. So if they are in love with Motu Patlu and Chiku Bunty, whether it's through a video game on a mobile phone, a tablet, or the show which is on TV and of course on several OTT platforms, they'll gravitate towards the character, because that is where the great bond and connect lies with the toon who he's so attached to. So I don't think as marketers sitting here today, we actually even categorize it as linear and non-linear anymore. And again, the past 2 years have been a great learning even for us as brand people. And we've learned to market very differently, things we could have never imagined before. And honestly, I think the lines have blurred, and they will remain blurred for a very long time now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, while we're all, I think, pretty much back to normal, there's no new normal. The term new normal is history now. I think what is added to the normal is things that, you know, we got familiar with. And I think kids pretty much took to digital and technology right from the age of 1. So it's interesting.
And the beauty is they take to the on-ground and experiential bit with as much passion as they do the social and digital.
Correct.
So there's never a dull moment, whether it's engaging at Kidzania or at a mall or at a park or schools or through Instagram or YouTube. We have to be
I think we parents have a
present
lot to learn
everywhere.
from the kids. They are happy in any situation. Mansi, you said that you run this platform which is for parents. Do you get feedback from parents that, you know, this kind of marketing should not be done? Or do they have a way to come back to you and give feedback on, you know, how you should be able to communicate to them for, you know, for the kids?
Yeah, so in fact, I was just going to add to that, right? That when we're speaking of communicating with the kids, you have to understand that the parent has to be in confidence, right? Because and when we're speaking of kids, guys, what age group are we speaking to? When we're speaking of NFTs and metaverse, that is a completely different audience. Under 10, your child, your parent is still your first line of control, right? So if the parent is not in
You would
confidence,
believe that, but not really.
no, I'm
strongly
telling you. No, when I say that, I'll tell you why. Because I have 9 and 13-year-olds, by the way, but the reason I say that is that because that tussle of whether I want it or I don't want it continues, but today a parent is not comfortable with a platform he doesn't understand, right? So today, example, if my 13-year-old says I want to download Snapchat, if I'm not understanding the platform, and I know the perils of it, it can be very hard hitting, right? So while I understand that they may understand the technology behind it, and they're a digital first generation, like Mayank said, and they're actually Gen Alpha, they're not even Gen Z that we're talking about.
Right.
So my point coming back is, do we get feedback? Yes, parents are definitely looking at more educative use case scenario content for their children. It is again platform agnostic, like she said. It doesn't matter whether it's at a park, it's at a play area, or it's anywhere else. But I think the filter to what are you doing with it, the use case has become very, very important for the parent and therefore for the child. And I think there is just abundance. It's actually the paradox of choice. Should I watch this channel? Should I watch this channel? Or should I not watch any of these and just watch OTT, right? So in many ways, the decision makers, unless it is above 10, it is to a large extent the parent. So I feel unless you're speaking to the parent, even if it's as simple as watching a movie.
Sorry to interrupt. 2 questions I have as a follow-up. Do you have an age group of the parent that you target, you focus on, and what are your marketing touch points?
So we are speaking to parents right from conception till the child is 16 years of age. And the kind of content and the deviation in content will be very, very different. So when I'm speaking to a parent of under 10, and 0 to 5, extremely high frequency. 0 to 2, even more. They're probably visiting you 3 times a day. But 2 to 5, they're probably visiting you 3 times a week or 4 times a week. And when we are talking of when you say digital touch points, we're speaking to them in mediums that the parent is okay for us to engage with them. So example, audio, which is off screen. The parent has been guilty of giving the screen to the child, but the parent also wants to educate in a non-screen format. And also I think one of the biggest learnings for us has been that the parent has realized that video is not the only way to learn. Like, we've learned through textbooks. Our kids are no longer, like the textbook is passé. Nobody is learning through reading anymore. Everybody is learning through audio and video. Knowledge transmission is so different. Right? Even when we're speaking, they've understood that the child is no longer learning only by reading, not only by eyes. It's auditory, it is kinesthetic in many ways. So I think today the parent is exploring every single sense to educate or to entertain. So platforms who will pick that up faster will find a much better use case scenario for them.
Azman, how did, this is, I think, a question that everybody has asked so many times, but specifically with regards to discovery, because you said that through your channels you reach out to different age groups. Was there a spike in viewership during the pandemic? Or did it make no difference?
It was an absolute bombastic spike in viewership for the kids genre, specifically overall in content consumption. Yes, definitely.
So was Parley spending more money on you?
I hope so. And like Discovery Plus as an app was launched during the pandemic. I think the story that we all say, we never tire of recounting in offices, the day the lockdown was announced was when the Discovery Plus press conference was happening. And we've seen massive, one of the fastest growing OTT apps in the country right now. So there's been a massive spike in consumption, in viewership. We are coming back across platforms to the pre-pandemic days. Yes, schools have reopened physically. People are going back to school. So that is going to impact the PUT. Of course, once again, there's travel time, there's commute. So across age groups, we are coming down to pre-pandemic levels, but the threshold is better, especially for the kids genre. Also in the kids genre, there has been in the last 1 year, there has been some very fundamental shifts in consumption patterns that have happened, and I'm sure Sonali would also have a slightly more deeper dive. We both work in the kids genre, but the frequency of watching the same thing over and again, the reach across PUTs and all, there has been a slight shift in it from what it used to be in the pre-pandemic days. So maybe in the earlier days we could get away with a couple of more repeats. Now we might have to ration it better, because now the kid knows that there are so many more options available in so many more places.
Okay. Mayank, do you see a difference between experiential marketing and immersive marketing? Sorry, I feel like I'm putting a question on a management paper here.
No, to be very honest, I think, we do. Experiential marketing, especially when it comes to kids, makes a huge difference. And a good example is, outlet out here. I would like to share that if you normally talk in terms of ROI or pure metrics or currencies in terms of, cost per contact and stuff like that, this is not viable. But when you talk about customer lifetime value, when you talk about, the kind of bonding it creates, I think it plays a huge role. So when a kid as a consumer experiences something, the kind of bonding that's generated, I think, and the kind of customer lifetime value that you create is far, better than any other form of marketing. So that way, yes, I mean, maybe very theoretical, but I still feel that, it makes a huge difference.
Right. Pancham, this is actually more in terms of, it may sound a little repetitive, but when you look at kids today, like even in a place like, Kidzania that is there in our city, how involved are you in making Kidzania, successful in what they're trying to do? As somebody who runs the mall where, the outlet is, do you play a role in that? Do you see a takeaway, or whatever Kidzania does is their piece, and, are things by chance when it comes out for people to come in and experience the rest of the mall?
So I think I answered a part of this question in my earlier thing when I said that today when we sit on marketing tables and we plan, there is a big chunk which is called and directed towards a very important TG, which are kids, because they'll get me the mothers and the fathers in too. So if I could answer your question in very short, I would say if I have 3 or 4 top campaigns in a year, one of them is solely directed towards kids. Out of the other 3, also a large part of every promotional medium is directed towards kids. I mean, today when we are doing direct marketing and, where we, especially direct marketing work in terms of location, so if I'm trying to get Pawai to come to this mall and I'm targeting through direct marketing in the houses, one of my most powerful mediums is to attract the kids there. So we do the drawing competitions and all. Kidzania, not just like you said, it's not a part of the entertainment in the thing. It is catering to kids, which become important decision makers in everything. Today, like Mayank said, after all, a human being has 12 waking hours. There are n number of industries, options vying for that time, And you suddenly realize the family itself is giving more importance to the kid where he or she wants to go. So if you want to reach home, you go through the kid. You know? Very important in the decision making, and I guess every industry has recognized this, and that's why there's a very, very focused marketing happening, and you have to be very ethical and very reliable and very relatable when you're marketing to the kid, because they are I call them, they are mature kids. At any age they are mature kids, you know. So yes.
So, Sonali,
Sorry,
yeah,
if I may
please.
add, you know, when you asked Mayank that question on experiential and immersive, you know, one of the things that we've noticed, especially for parents as well, when they are propagating or allowing their kids to, you know, to certain products or services, they're very clearly, like Mayank said, the lifetime value of their customer is so much more, you know, something that they would rather invest in versus anything else. We've seen that exact parallel on the platform when it comes to the mother, that if you have to serve and serve before you sell to her, right? So if she doesn't see, you know, she doesn't see a use case scenario where she can engage with you, or she can save or share the content that you are, you know, that you're targeting towards her, she's not going to be with you, or she's not going to stick with you. So you don't know if that mother is going to buy into that product or service yet, but if she finds value and if you serve and if she knows that, okay, you've got a solution to her problem, then the chances of them actually sticking by you for a much, much longer time over competition that will come and go in many different forms, like Parle is a classic example of that, with the number of years that they've been in business as well.
Right. Great. Sonali, I have two questions kind of linked to each other. One is, when you acquire IPs, what is it that you look at when you're acquiring them? What are you expecting in terms of return in their acquisition? And second is, when you create IPs on your own as a destination, do you look at a production house that already has you know, a success story, or you look at what they, you know, or are you looking for something specific to get done? So,
So, as you can see, the boom currently in the entire animation industry in India, it's really exploding. You have everything here from mythology content to Japanese content that is acquired, to a whole lot of amazing local shows and IPs that are being churned out month on month by numerous channels and OTT platforms. I think, and I can say that safely for any content creator, the one key hook that we would look at is whether it would make the right connect with the child. And the preferences of kids is changing so dramatically these days that one has to keep that balance in mind, whether it's ticking all the boxes of how he is evolving, the entertainment. As I mentioned at the start, a lot of the content you see these days is very irreverent and tongue-in-cheek, because children are looking for that avenue of escape. And at the same time, a great deal of content is purpose-driven, meaningful, because they want to see that in their heroes who they emulate. So the life cycle of creating animation content is far longer than live action, as we know. The lead time is longer, the pipeline is far longer. And I can say that a lot of studios in India now are rising to the occasion, and we can see all the amazing shows currently that are in the top are the local IPs. And even if they are the acquired Japanese IPs, they are doing well on the back of the amazing local dubbing that have been done by the in-house content teams at the
so
channels.
in one sense, it's still local in nature.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, I have a last question, but I just thought if anybody has a question here that you would like to ask the panel. Because we have another 2 minutes left, so, okay. So just as a sign off, what I really want to ask each one of you is, how do you see the normal life that we're coming back to, changing your strategy in terms of reaching out to the kids? We'll start with you, Azmat.
Well, we're super excited, honestly. One is that the kid is going back to school, so yay for them. I think they've had the most traumatic. It's been the toughest on them, and I think there is a term that's now often used called revenge shopping. I think I'm all set for revenge marketing to the kid. Like, just it's going to be all, we NHS are kind of, putting our summer plans in place and all of that. And in a very delightful and immersive manner, it's going to be across the board, right? So, yeah.
Pancham?
Yeah, actually, I'll add on to what she said. Summer plans are really big because it's going to be the first time the kids have started going to school. So coming to malls is going to be the next option. Coming to the point of how different is it post-COVID, we've come back to normal life. But I think for some time at least, the good values or the good points that COVID taught us is going to remain. So the marketing that we do or the activities we do will have some sort of learning apart from just pure selling, because that's where the parents also feel, a part of the decision making that yes, it has to be there. So very, very focusedly, we're going to plan for the kids where there is we are already doing some sort of competitions for the kids which are, aimed towards getting them to learn something. So big summer plans, but yes, post-COVID, it will have a part of learning apart from pure selling, for sure.
Sure. Mansi?
I think two things. One is for all of us here to realize that discovery is no longer on one platform. It is across platforms, right? The biggest learning for us is to customize search to make sure that it's voice compatible. That was one of the first things that we did because these kids don't type. They only voice and search, right? So that was one. Second is they're looking at, their heroes are not local anymore. The world has opened up. They're discovering on the internet. So like she said, whether it's a Japanese, IP or anything else, or it's a YouTuber that they're fascinated with, I think very important that their heroes are in a boundaryless space. So I think that is the second part. And the third is that keep the mother or keep the parent in confidence, very important, because there are just so many products that I think there is information exhaustion, both for the parent and for the child.
Right. Sonali?
Yeah, so I think we've gotten used to living in spikes and dips in the past 2 years. So this is an amazing spike, and we've gone berserk with our marketing touch points, not left anything out. And a lot of the memories that remain intact in a kid's head is formed when he's 7, 8 years old. And I just hope we can entertain them and help them create some amazing memories that in some way eases off what they've gone through in the past 2 years. Because it's been the hardest for the kid and the senior citizen. The opposite ends of the spectrum have actually suffered the most. So yeah, looking forward.
Absolutely. Yes, Mayank.
Yeah. So last 2 years of pandemic, while, it taught all of us something or other, and the kids who are anyways, digitally very savvy, they have become digital geniuses. So while that happened, one thing more that happened was they started valuing human relations. Something that otherwise in normal scenario they would have taken for granted, as in, you're my friend, classmate, this, that, cousin. But the lockdown, made them value those relations, made them value many other things which otherwise they would not have. We're trying to probably, work on that. And if you look at our, latest campaigns and stuff like that, we started talking about empathy. We've started talking about, how they need to be considerate to others, and that's resonating very well with the kids, because that's something that they have picked up. That's something that they have missed, those relations, the human, relations in terms of be it with their friends, classmates, or cousins. And the last campaign, we never thought we would get the kind of response that we got. But not just kids, even the parents, I think they have resonated very well. So going forward, I feel that if we start getting in, those values, if we start getting in, are they ready, to absorb that, and probably they are valuing it much more than what they were. And that, as I said, our last campaign's punchline was genius wahi, jo paaye dusron ki khushi mein apni khushi, as in joy of others lies our own. Now, really a big thing for kids, but the kind of response that we got for it was phenomenal. So I think that's something really good, very positive aspect that COVID brought in, and that's something that we would like to probably work on going forward.
Superb. Thank you so much. Thanks, Azmat. Thanks,
Thank you.
Pancham.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mansi, Sonali, and
Pleasure.
Mayank. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Shamini.